High transfer of Difelikefalin in hemodialys paid with Pruritus. Difelikefalin is a select in a peripheral restrict agent of kappa, a post receptor that is considered important in modeling Pruritus in conditions such as chronic kidney disease.
More than 20 million patients in the United States experience pruritus. This itching sensation is often associated with dermatological conditions, as well as chronic renal, hepatic, and endocrinological diseases. Pruritogenic substances released from dermal immune cells stimulate peripheral nerve endings, resulting in an elevated itch signal transmission to the brain. Current therapies that focus on blocking components of the immune reaction often provide insufficient relief and produce numerous side effects. In response, Cara Therapeutics has developed a completely new approach in pruritus therapy, CR845. CR845 binds with high selectivity to kappa-opioid receptors on immune cells and peripheral nerve endings, thus blocking the itch at its source while keeping drug-related side effects to a minimum. CR845 by Cara Therapeutics. Manage pruritus, reduce side effects, and improve patient quality of life.
Application in nursing. Difelikefalin results in a significant improvement from baseline to week 12 in the relative quality of life measured by the 5-point scale and the skin 10 scale.
What is a phase 3 clinical trial? A phase 3 clinical trial is the third phase of human clinical trials. These trials compare new treatments with the best current available treatment. Normally, phase 3 clinical trials are performed in a larger group of volunteers ranging from about 300 to over 3,000 people. These studies can be run in many different countries all over the world. Only about 18% of phase 2 trials make it to phase 3, meaning the new treatment is quite effective. The goal of a phase 3 clinical trial is to determine how the effectiveness of the new treatment measures up against the effectiveness of current treatments. A phase 3 clinical trial might also look into new doses or ways to administer existing therapies. If determined effective, then the new treatment or new medication can be presented to the FDA for approval. Want to get involved in a phase 3 trial? Go to WCCT.com.
Pros and cons. The Difelikefalin group had a decrease of at least 3 points in the weight RR is good primary outcome compared to phase 1 of 169% in the placebo group. Direct descent and vomit were more common in the Difelikefalin group than in the placebo group.
Chronic kidney disease in the United States is an enormous problem that is actually growing at pretty logarithmic rates.
Roughly in the United States, there's about 25 million people who have some loss of kidney function.
One of the complications of this is a rather unique form of what's called systemic pruritus, which is simply a fancy term for whole body itching and discomfort.
Pruritus usually starts when a patient has undergone dialysis for a prolonged period of time, although some patients do experience it early in the dialysis treatment.
Up to 90% of patients on dialysis have some degree of itching at some time or another.
The itching is terrible. I can hardly stand it. Most of the time it's unbearable.
When the itching occurs, you have to dig your skin. Sometimes you scratch yourself until it bleeds.
They suffer so much at home with not being able to sleep, not being able to interact, not being embarrassed because they were always having to scratch.
Pruritus affects their whole entire life. They say it's so bad that they want to scratch their skin off.
The itching is like under the skin, and you can't get to it. It's not like something on your skin, it's something under your skin. And you scratch it and it'll feel good for a minute, but come right back.
It affects you socially, it affects you psychologically, it affects you physically, and it increases the overall morbidity in patients. You end up with increased hospitalizations, increased cost of treatment, they have to be on antibiotics. It's a mess.
The itching has affected my sleep, right? Because I would wake up maybe every hour. Terrible. In the middle of the night.
The pruritus can be so severe that at night they're unknowingly scratching themselves, obviously. And because of bacteria on the surface of the skin, these bacteria can be inadvertently
Sores on their skin because they scratch so much from the itching, and it's bad. It's not just a simple itch.
But there's this desire and need to scratch harder. And as a consequence, people can do considerable damage to their skin.
We actually had one patient that lost his access because of the scratching.
Well, I tried lotion. I tried anti-itch creams. I mean, everything that I could get my hand on. But
Issue applied to Ecuador. We ran that hemodialysis patients would have marked for severe itching to receive intravenous Difelikefalin, a dose of 0.5 per kilogram of body weight or placebo treat, tied a weight for 12 weight.
Pediatric endocrinologist from Children's Minnesota, and I really want to thank the FPW for the opportunity to share some of the information about this new trial, and also for all of your attention and willingness to participate in a variety of trials that are going on, because I really feel like it is a really exciting time for research for Prader-Willi. I've been a peds endo in Minnesota now for 18 years and have patients that I've watched grow up and throughout the years, and it's just really fun to have things that are on the horizon that can potentially help, and just to get more answers. I think for me that's the biggest part of research, is to get answers. So this study is looking at diazoxide choline controlled release, or DCCR. I'll refer to that the rest of the time, and really this is a drug that we've used in pediatrics for children with hyperinsulinism for a long time, so we recognize the safety profile of it. This is a controlled release tablet, drug that we know. And to think about why we use this drug, I'm just going to go into a little bit about some of the hormones and integration pathways in the hypothalamus. And so I think when you think about all the hormones that run around your body, I like to think of them as text messages maybe, and the hypothalamus itself is sort of the LTE network that integrates all those text messages and helps you decide feeding and energy and behaviors and pull them all together in a cohesive fashion. And really, we're going to focus today on a very small part of the very small hypothalamus, or probably the arcuate nucleus, and neuropeptide Y and a Goody-related protein interactions, and how they regulate feeding and energy balance. And so we know that these are appetite stimulatory neuropeptides, and that the arcuate nucleus is very important for integration of all the other peripheral satiety and appetite hormones, and how you integrate all of those peripheral signals into the core.
Conclusion. Patients treated with Difelikefalin had a significant reduction in anxiety, improved in relaxed quality of life compared to those receiving placebo.
More than 20 million patients in the United States experience pruritus. This itching sensation is often associated with dermatological conditions, as well as chronic renal, hepatic, and endocrinological diseases. Pruritogenic substances released from dermal immune cells stimulate peripheral nerve endings, resulting in an elevated itch signal transmission to the brain. Current therapies that focus on blocking components of the immune reaction often provide insufficient relief and produce numerous side effects. In response, Cara Therapeutics has developed a completely new approach in pruritus therapy, CR845. CR845 binds with high selectivity to kappa-opioid receptors on immune cells and peripheral nerve endings, thus blocking the itch at its source while keeping drug-related side effects to a minimum. CR845 by Cara Therapeutics. Manage pruritus, reduce side effects, and improve patient quality.